Don't want to tell us about Yuma. Oh, no, it's not.
Mark. Councillor Chadsey.
Hello?
Okay, now we got you.
Hello now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the regular meeting of Osoyoos Town Council, Monday, March the 21st at 2:00 p.m. in Council Chambers. First item of business is the adoption of some minutes. Looking for adopting the Committee of the Whole minutes from March the 7th, regular open meeting minutes from March the 7th, and special open minutes from March the 11th for adoption, please. Councillor Ryan, Councillor Cronmiller, any discussion on those?
Mayor, I'd like to. I'd like to move them as presented, with the exception of the March the 7th, and I think we have some revised, a revised section there. One of the motions.
I have that, Councillor Ryan.
Have that, do you?
Yes.
Okay, good. And so, as amended then for the 7th of March.
Okay, I'll just read that correction in first, if I may.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and so this is on the regular opening minutes from March the 7th for adoption with an amendment to the notice of motion by Councillor Ryan, and as corrected, it will read, moved by Councillor Ryan and seconded by Councillor Chadsey, and resolved that staff prepare a report on all materials currently being used for turf growth, weed and insect control on the public lands, parks, golf courses, and playing fields within the town of Osoyoos. That this report enumerate the names and types of such materials, the frequency of use, and usual rate of application, and that this report be provided to Council on March the 21st. So Councillor Ryan's motion would be to adopt those as corrected. Thank you. Yes. Any further discussion? Looking for the vote, please. All in favor? Opposed?
I'm in favor.
Thank you, Councillor Chadsey. Then we have the other minutes up for adoption, special open minutes of March the 11th for adoption. Councillor Ryan, Councillor Cronmiller, any discussion? Hearing none, they are adopted by consensus. Now also we have special open minutes from March the 11th, and this Committee of the Whole minutes from March the 7th and the special open, didn't we just do those? Yes, yes. Okay, at this point I'd just like to announce that Councillor Chadsey is with us by conference call from Yuma, Arizona. So that's her at her desk, but she's talking to us from quite a distance. So welcome, Councillor Chadsey.
Thank you.
Now, under business arising from prior minutes, we do have the report from Director of Operations, read the pesticide use on public property. Mr. Doucette, please.
Good afternoon. Council was wishing to find out what kind of fertilizers, pesticides that we use around town, and basically this is what you've got here. It's basically separated into basically three different areas. One is basically trees and brush and plants. And as you can see from here, most of the material that we use is environmentally friendly. It's the fish fertilizers, as you can see it all here. Matter of fact, for the aphids, we used ladybugs in the past, which have worked, and so on and so forth. So we've been really considering the environment in that aspect. The next one is obviously our lawns, our lawn care, which is we have a lot of lawns to take care of. And what we've done in the past is, last July, we had the help of a lawn expert to let us know how we should be looking at this, knowing that in the near future, the chemical herbicides will probably be gone. So we are definitely looking at more of the mechanical ways of aeration, thatching, and everything else, and we're hoping to get that way. What the first thing we did is we took a sample of all our parks to see where we were at, and then see what was missing. And this is how all the numbers that you see here. This is how we came up with the our fertilizing schedule. There is a herbicide which basically is a weed and feed, and that's basically what we're trying to get away from. But the idea with this is to try to get a good start and sort of a fresh start, and then try to get rid of them, and then start from there. So that's why we have this portion of that in here, and that's what I guess we were trying to get away from. We do have, like in this year's budget, a verticutter, which will help us, again, like I think aeration of the lawns helps quite a bit to, a healthy lawn has no weeds, and that's what we're trying to achieve. The last part is basically I guess the nasties, you want to call it that. As you know, we have puncture vine in town that we've been trying to fight for, I think, the last 15 years with limited success. And basically, this is what all we use there is basically touchdown and Cazaron. And the Cazaron, most of the Cazaron is being used around the lagoons, because all the weeds at the lagoons, when they dry up, they get into lagoons, they're a maintenance problem. And basically, that's what we've got. And the touchdown, again, like I say, it's some of the weeds on the sidewalks, but mostly it's try to control puncture vine. So that's what I've got at this point.
Okay, I'm sure there's some questions. Director Doucette, Council?
I'm no chemist, but I can see what I can help you out if I can, yeah.
Any questions, Councillor Rhodes?
Thank you, Mayor Wells. So the nasty stuff that we use right now, do we have a date in mind? Is there a target when we might be able to do away with it? Except for the puncture vine component.
Well, basically, that's the main thing. Like, and even the puncture vine, we've tried other methods. Like, if we can get it before it seeds, we're in great shape. Once it seeds, the best method is actually to pull it, and that's what we've been doing. We've been having the help from the provincial noxious weed people to help us out, and that's where. But again, like I say, that's basically the. And I say nasty. Most pesticide they have a toxicity level. And it's called the LD50. I'm not going to go into that because it's not nice. But as an example, nicotine, the LD value is 50, and the touchdown is 4,300. Saying that, but the thing is the lower the number, the more toxic it is. So just to give you an idea, aspirin is 1,000. So whatever we're using is not, it's nasty, but it's not that nasty, according to the people I talk to anyway.
Okay. Yep. Council?
I have a question.
Yes, Councillor Chadsey.
I'm curious about the ladybugs. How does that work?
They come in half frozen, and we just basically put them in the trees when the aphids are, and then they just work themselves up and they do their thing.
And it's quite effective?
Pardon me?
It's quite effective?
It does work, yeah. The thing is with aphids, if you can get the preventive, like the dormant oils before it even starts, that's even better yet, and that's what we're hoping to do. But they have worked, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chadsey. Councillor Ryan, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Ron, yeah, thanks for this. I'm glad to have this and to see that you are using already a number of more green, if you will, methods. Yeah. And also materials. Just two questions, I guess. First is, were you able to cover the golf course with this? Does that involve them, or you were just? No,
just the golf course is all there is. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So these are our parks and our playing fields and so on. Yeah.
Desert Park, there was a really bad area, and the thing is with puncture vine, if you can seed it or sod it and water it, you'll maintain it. Sort of thing, and that's what we've done as well.
There was in your third paragraph here on your report, excuse me. There's you talk about a three-way herbicide, in the second line, and I wasn't quite sure whether you had identified that or just where that is. Do you have it with you there? No,
I see it, but I'm not sure what that. I can't answer that question. Sorry, I'm not the expert in that part of it. What the three-way means.
Yeah, well, I did put those words, the evil words into
Yes, yeah, and
you do get some scary things coming.
No, you're so correct, and that's what we're trying to remove.
Yeah.
Another thing I forgot to mention, the Aquacide machine, which is basically steam, we got that back in 2000.
Really?
So we've been, like I said, we've been trying. It's not the most efficient, but we do use it around the any water streams, the lake, stuff like that. So
it's mobile. You can
well, it's not. That's the problem. It's not that efficient. It's not that mobile.
Huh.
And I have to say also, the beach cleaner has helped quite a bit with weed control along the beaches for sure. So, like I say, we're going in the right direction. There's no doubt. We have a ways to go, but we're going in the right direction.
Thanks, Councillor Ryan. I was surprised to see casseron still there when I was farming. That was a product that they had out then, and most of the products that I was familiar with have long been pulled off the shelves. But
Yeah.
that's a soil sterilant, I believe.
That's
isn't it?
right,
That
yeah.
just knocks out.
As much as we can, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's like I say, most of that's around the lagoons.
Sure.
Yeah.
When we're looking at this, if I ask the question, how long before we're pesticide free, what would your reply be? Do we need a resolution from council to get your department directed toward pesticide free, or because there are other communities in BC that are pesticide free?
Right.
So
Well, we can probably start anytime. The thing is, with this reason here is to try to get ourselves in good shape first, and then obviously get rid of it. Now, we can try getting rid of it this year if you like. I just don't know where it's going to go. Like I say, we are going to try the mechanical areas, such as, like say, the aeration and that type of stuff, and hopefully that will help us. Overseeding, top dressing, just to try to keep that as healthy as. It's all time, but I mean that's where we'd like to go. But
and that probably makes sense.
Yeah.
For this year to receive a report and everyone be aware of it, and then the council have a look at it and see if they want to make that push. It's quite a step to go pesticide free, but I believe this council would be heading there. So this has been really good to have this dialogue and get the initial process kicked off.
even fertilizers as well. There's liquid stuff out there that might work even better rather than spraying further. Like I say, there's that. Like I say, we're just sort of looking at avenues right now to minimize all this. So hopefully we're going in the right direction.
Okay, well, when we're finished with the questions, I think I'll be looking for a motion to receive, but I think there's still a couple of questions out there. Councillor Ryan.
Well, I wanted to actually make sure that before we received it and perhaps even receive and deal with it another time more in depth. But I wanted to acknowledge the assistance of Jerry Lynn Mackey, who in fact has joined us today, and it was she who first came and presented to us, and it was she who gave me some assistance in identifying some of the things that maybe we should be alerted to or on the lookout for. And I'm happy to see that most of those don't seem to be among the list in your report, Ron. So
well, that's good.
That is good. And I was quite happy to see that you had this little aqua side, and hopefully those kind of things will be developed even
11 years now.
More, yeah, and maybe made a little more effective in terms of being able to be portable and transported further.
Thank you. Anything further from council? Hearing none, could we have a motion to receive? Councillor Cronmiller, Ryan, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. And the next item up is introduction of late items. There are two. We have a out-of-town council meeting report for Councillor Rhodes to be added as business item 5, and BC Senior Games to be added as business item 6. Motion to add these to the agenda. Councillor Rhodes, Ryan. Discussion. Hearing none. They are adopted by consensus. That brings us to delegations, and there are no delegations. Moving into water matters, and these are water district matters. And the first item is an amendment bylaw number 1241.03.2011. Mr. Zackel, please.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. The Town of Osiris operates their rural water system under the Water District Rates and Regulations Bylaw 1241. This bylaw amendment was first brought forward to Council at the March 7th meeting and was given first 3 readings. Some highlights to the 2011 water district or water system are the 2011 operating expenses, less transfers to reserves, contingencies, and capital expenditures for the water system have decreased by $23,575. A single-family residence will pay $328 for domestic water in 2011 as compared to the $316 in 2010. The parcel irrigation rate of $157.77 will remain the same as 2010, and other water district user fees will increase by 3.8%. The water capital projects that are budgeted for in 2011 include the water metering for the high-end water or high-end users for meter installation, a source to tap assessment, 340 reservoir expansion to increase our water supply for the community in the rural area, and the water distribution main from 74th to Curlew, the Station 9 electrical system upgrading and construction, and the Oasis Vedette Drive on-site services. The capital budget or capital projects budgeted for in 2011 total $1,987,100, and the sources of funding to fund these capital projects are $368,880 coming from operating funds, user fees that is, $965,120 coming from reserves. We have $514,000 coming from development cost charges, and $152,100 coming from other contributions, being developer contributions. Some of the implications for the community is improved infrastructure and increased water capacity. Organizationally, there is no organizational changes required, and budget, the increased rates will result in an increase in revenues by $61,100. And the recommendation is to adopt Water District Rates and Regulations Bylaw Amendment 1241.03 for 2011.
Thank you, Mr. Zackel. Councillor Moreira, please. Taking the motion. Councillor Angel, second. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed?
In favor.
Thank you, Councillor Chadsey. That is carried. Time to pay some bills with the Water District rates and Water District accounts in the amount of $26,935.01 for approval. Councillor Loranjo Moreira this time. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
I'm in favor.
Thank you. Moving on to correspondence, March the 4th. Some meeting highlights from the Okanagan Basin Water Board. These are the monthly report that we get from the OBWB folks. Looking for a motion to receive. Councillor Rhodes, Cronmiller. Any discussion? Hearing none, these will be adopted by consensus and received by consensus. Correspondence number 2, we have a letter here in your agenda slated as BC Hydro regarding Earth Hour 2011. We actually are going to substitute that for our provider. We'll have a letter from Fortis BC regarding that same Earth Hour on Saturday night. Councillor Ryan, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, since we're not within BC Hydro's area, we'll talk about Fortis BC. And annually, there is an Earth Hour that we're all encouraged to reduce our lighting and energy use in order to save the planet and decrease our carbon emissions. This year, Fortis, who is our provider, are asking us on Earth Hour, which is Saturday, the 27th of March, is coming Saturday, at 8:30 for 1 hour till 9:30. They're encouraging us to do this, but they're also giving us a very wonderful incentive. If we call them, and I'll give you the number in a moment, or if we go to their website, fortisbc.com, and tell what we're going to do in that 1 hour, And if we get more people in Asuyas than anybody else in the South Okanagan, our charity, the Asuyas Child Care Society, will receive, was it $5,000 in upgrades, energy-saving upgrades to their facility. So we want to encourage everybody in town to sign up, to turn off not just your lights, but your computers, and I think the ultimate would be to turn off your televisions, and really reduce your power usage for that period of time. And the more people we get to do it, the more opportunity, more chance our child care center is going to have to win these energy upgrades. So I just want to encourage you to go to their website, fortisbc.com, or an 800 number, and that 800 number is 866-436-7847. 7847. So a wonderful thing. It's been going on now for many years, started in Australia, and hopefully Asuyas will be the leading energy saver this year. Sorry?
26.
It's the 27th. Yeah, Saturday the 27th. 26th, is it? Oh my. This other one says the 27th, so. Saturday. This Saturday.
It's Saturday, and I don't know what we'll do if those Coyotes are playing here, but hopefully they'll have it wrapped up by then.
Right.
So that is Saturday, this Saturday, the 26th,
yeah.
8:30 to 9:30, lights out. So thanks, Councillor. Thanks, Councillor Ryan. Motion to receive that letter, please. Councillor Cronmiller. Ryan, any discussion? Adopted by consensus. Moving into the bylaw portion of the meeting, Mr. Zackel, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 in a row here. So we'll let you have the podium as you walk us through the Sewer Rates and Regulations Amendment Bylaw 1065.12, 2011.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. The town of Asuyas operates their sewer system under the town's Sewer Rates and Regulations Bylaw 1065. This bylaw amendment was brought forward at the March 7th meeting of Council, where it was also given first 3 readings. The highlights for the 2011 operating expenses, less transfers to reserves, contingencies and capital expenditures for the town's sewer system have decreased by $4,064. A single-family residence in town will pay $212 in 2011, as compared to $209 in 2010. Single-family residents in a rural area will pay $305 in 2011. Other sewer user fees will experience a rate increase of 1.44%. In 2011, we'll also be transferring to reserves for future expenditures an amount of $127,624. The capital projects for 2007 include lagoon upgrading, flow meters for the golf course lift station and Desert Park, Legion Beach trunk sewer upgrading, the Northwest Sector Sewer Project, a sewer locator, sewer extension to the marina, the Oasis Vedette Drive on-site services, and a Sunny Dump station at 115th Street. The capital projects budgeted for in 2011 total $5,870,800, with funding coming from operating funds being user fees of $250,000, grants of $3,563,700, and other contributions of $2,057,100. The implications we've got for the community is improved infrastructure and improved lake water quality. Organizationally, no organizational changes are required. And for the budget, the increased rates will result in an increase in revenues of $16,000. And the recommendation is to adopt the Sewer Rates and Regulations Amendment Bylaw 1065.12 for 2011.
Thank you, Mr. Zackel. Looking for someone to move the recommended motion. Councillor Rhodes. Councillor Cronmiller. Open for discussion, please. Councillor Ryan.
Yes, thank you. I just want to call to everyone's attention the kinds of things that are using some of these funds for, and a tremendous amount of upgrades and new projects that are going on. And I think one of the ones that's going to touch people the most and make the most convenient thing for people traveling through or staying in our town is a Santa dump that we're going to have up near the industrial park. So a lot of the funds that have been accumulated or that are used to pay for the service are being put to good use.
Thanks, Councillor Ryan. And I also get excited about infrastructure when I see that the town is spending upwards of $5 million or more on some of these projects. These are really, really worthwhile. These are the kind of projects that allow city councilors or town councilors to sleep at night when we know that the pump stations and the lift stations and all those things are operating as they should be. This is, like I say, I get quite excited when I see money being spent on infrastructure. Sidewalks and trails and that are wonderful, but this is really, really the core of the city. So congratulations. And again, we're spending a lot of money, and the town has spent a lot of money this year. And I think we have some good tax surprises at the end of all this. So any further discussion on this one here? All in favor? Opposed?
In favor.
Thanks, Councillor Chadsey. That's carried. Into the Water Rates and Regulations Amendment Bylaw 1242.03, 2011. Mr. Zackel.
Yes, the town of Osoyoos operates their town water system under the town's Water Rates and Regulations Bylaw 1242. This bylaw amendment being brought forward was being brought forward from the March 7th regular meeting of council, which it received first 3 readings. Highlights, we've already addressed the highlights for the operating expenses. However, the single-family residents will pay $279 for domestic water in 2011 as compared to $267 in 2010. The parcel irrigation rate is $161.47, and it'll remain the same as 2010. And other water user fees will increase by 4.49%. I've already listed the water capital projects that we've got coming forward. They're the same projects that we had for the water district aspect of it, and the recommendation for this is to adopt this bylaw.
Thank you.
I'll move.
Resolution, please.
Moved.
I'll move for adoption.
Okay, thanks, Yuma. Councillor Rhodes, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Carried. Thanks, Councillor Chadsey. Next one is Waste Management Services and Regulations Amendment Bylaw 1267.03, 2011. This is really a neat resolution, bylaw here, where we're changing quite a bit about our waste management services. And again, this is a really good change, where we're going to start doing every second week on yard waste, and we're getting away from those clear plastic bags and going to a craft paper bag and going to hard-sided containers. There was a real lot of good information in here, and I'm really happy to see us going forward. I think this is a very, very progressive bylaw. Mr. Zackel.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. So basically, Waste Management Services and Regulations Amendment Bylaw 1267.03 for 2011 is to deal with amendments to the garbage and recycling and the collection for the town of Osoyoos and the Osoyoos Sanitary Landfill. Some of these highlights, this bylaw amendment received first 3 readings at the March 7th meeting. The collection of garbage, recycling, and yard waste, collection of garbage, recycling, yard and garden waste collection, and large items. The highlights for that is that there's no significant or no changes to the 2011 garbage and recycling rate of $104. Large item collection date of May 17th. We will allow up to a maximum of 2 additional items now to be collected. That's up from 1 from the previous years. The glass collection will change where it won't be offered as a curbside service. However, the collection dates that were in our calendar of March 22nd and June 14th will remain in place for 2011. We have confirmed that the bottle depot will establish a glass collection area at their recycling depot, and that's been confirmed with VFI and Mr. Menard. There is also a bin available at the Oswego Sanitary Landfill. Yard and garden waste collection. This service, as Mayor Wells alluded to, is going to be increased from a collection of once per month to a biweekly yard and garden waste. For 2011, this will be effective May 3rd. In 2012 and subsequent years, it'll be from the 1st of March to November 30th. In addition, we are changing the requirement. Yard and garden waste will be allowed to be collected in 3 different forms. One of them is by using a reusable container. The second is the craft-style compostable yard waste bags. And the third is for the prunings and trimmings to be bundled as established by our bylaw. Currently, what we've done is BFI has been notified of the changes and has confirmed that their company will begin the biweekly yard and garden waste collection for May 3rd. Letters have been mailed out to the businesses informing them of the new condition that plastic yard and garden waste bags will no longer be allowed for the collection of yard waste in the town boundaries, and that an alternative, or the alternative, is the craft compostable yard and garden waste bag. A revised calendar and fact sheet, as well as the a label to attach to a reusable yard and garden waste container, which is basically a garbage can that's clean, will be mailed out within the next 2 weeks to all of the property owners that are charged garbage on their property tax bill. We're just in the process of completing that. We'll also be putting, or the property owners will also receive a revised calendar to the end of June to establish those changes. We're working on an annual calendar that will go from July to July with the regional district. That'll invoke all of the new changes from that point on. We also will be posting on our town's website and putting it into our e-news for the town, as well as an advertisement be placed at the Oswego Times. So the recommendation is to have the requirement of the yard and garden waste bags to be effective the May 3rd once we go to the biweekly yard and garden waste collection. So it gives the property owners a bit of a transition period from that once they receive the notification. Some of the definitions and changes to the bylaw amendment 1267.03, we've added the definitions for oversized tires so that we can establish a fee for that service. Those tires are sent off, and we're charged for those oversized tires. Likewise, we also have to have the definition of a tire so that they can differentiate between the two. We've also established a definition for recyclable gypsum board and wallboard, and that's to set another fee and charge at a reduced rate from the demolition waste rate. We've changed Section 4F of the bylaw to allow for a maximum of 2 large items to be collected during the annual collection of large items. In Section 5F, we changed the yard and garden waste collection to say yard and garden waste must be bagged with craft yard waste bags only, bundled, or placed in clearly marked reusable containers such that the gross weight of each bag, bundle, or container not exceed 20 kilograms. Yard and garden waste will be collected with an unlimited volumes, just like the recyclables, so it gives the property owner the opportunity to fully take care of their yard and garden waste if they're not composting at home already. Fees and charges to be changed in this bylaw amendment include garbage tags. That's the additional bag tag. That rate's went from $1.50 per tag to $2 per tag, with that additional revenue being utilized to assist with the ongoing advertising and recycling costs. Demolition waste increased from $125 to the $200 per ton to be comparable with the city of or Campbell Mountain landfill in Penticton. Recyclable gypsum board, that's the new rate of $85 per ton. The oversized tires is $200 per ton, being a new rate and the exact same rate as the Campbell Mountain landfill. And the other new item trying to limit the amount that's going into the active face of our landfill is mattresses and box springs. setting a rate of $6 per mattress and per box spring. That cost is going to be utilized to bring in services to disassemble those mattresses and box springs and source separate the materials so that only the covering material is actually going into the active phase, not the metal and the wood. So the implications to our community are improved yard and garden waste collection, allowing for more collections for the year, reducing the volume of debagged materials being placed into the active phase of our sanitary landfill, thus improving our length of our landfill life. Increased level of service to allow for up to 2 large items to be collected rather than 1 for the May 17th collection. A change in method of glass collection due to the cost effectiveness of the system. Continued effort for waste diversion at the sanitary landfill to extend the lifespan for our residents. Organizationally, staff time is required to implement the changes as proposed. All of these changes can be done during the normal operating hours and will not require additional resources. From a budget perspective, there's no change to the 2011 garbage and recycling rate of $104. The additional revenues generated from the increase to the fees and charges at the sanitary landfill will cover the increase in costs for the additional source separating activities at the sanitary landfill. And as mentioned in a few meetings before, that also included source separation of the demolition waste by our local contractor to ensure materials are being source separated before going into the active phase. Savings from not allowing plastic yard and garden waste bags will basically, the savings that we have from not allowing the plastic yard and garden wastes, that those savings in debagging fees will pay for the additional service that we're providing for the additional yard and garden waste pickups. So the recommendation is to adopt this bylaw, Amendment 1267.03 for 2011.
Moving to recommend bylaw, Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Ryan. Discussion, please. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, thanks a lot, Jim. I know this is the second time I've thanked you for it, and we're here to adopt this today. And so since our last meeting, I've been asked several times about the logic behind not allowing the plastic bags anymore. And, you know, you often assume that it's just a given that people would understand, but that's not necessarily the case. When those bags arrive at our landfill and have the yard and garden waste inside of them, somebody has to physically stand there and remove all of that material from inside of the bag so that it can go into our composting system and routines that we have up there. Very labor intensive, very, very costly process. So that's the main motivation behind doing that. And I know Mr. Zackel had mentioned a couple of times in his report. I just didn't want to glance over that so everybody had a good understanding of why we're doing it. And to once again remind everybody, the ultimate solution to that difficulty is to compost that material in your yard.
Thanks, Councillor Rhodes. Councillor Ryan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I think it's always good to see that our services are being expanded, and here we have we retained the same level of cost, and yet through some very important changes have been able to increase the service, and particularly with the yard and garden waste, people can use their own containers if they wish, and so they don't even have to buy the paper bags if they don't want to. And I think it's important to note that these yard clippings and so on are going to the landfill, but they're not going into the landfill. They're becoming compost, and we're hoping in our budget that we're going to talk about later to improve our ability to deal with larger volumes of this material so that we can compost more. And we had our first harvest of compost this year, and we hope that we'll be producing even more in the future. So I think we're expanding services, retaining the same cost by being able to transfer things back and forth, and I think that's good news.
Thanks, Councillor Ryan. Anything further, Councillor Cronmiller? You're happy with?
They're doing just fine. My partners here they've explained it all well.
And this is a really great system. Again, I don't know why I get excited about things like this, but So the people at home, don't be buying any more clear plastic bags because they're going to be null and void in May the 3rd. So go to craft bags. Myself, I'm going to go to a hard-sided basket or wheeled barrel probably, and roll it out there, and you get the sticker on the side. And the sticker is to show that that's yard and garden waste only. And one other point, this is not compostable kitchen materials going in here. Your compostable kitchen materials will either still be going for some folks who don't have the opportunity to compost, which is some of your commercial buildings and condos. That'll be going regular garbage, or the people at home that have bought the $40 composter, they will still continue to put that in there. So it is yard and garden only, and we'll go through a little bit of a period bringing this up, but I'm sure everybody will get it very quickly. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor? Opposed?
I'm in favor.
Thank you, Marg. Thank you, Councillor Chadsey. And finally, the 5-year financial plan, which actually, while it talks about the 5-year financial plan, embedded in that is what we're going to have for tax increases this year and what the local component was for the town of Vesuvius. Also a very, very exciting issue. Mr. Zacco, please.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. So before us is 5-year financial plan bylaw 1281, 2011. Section 165 of the Community Charter requires municipalities to prepare a financial plan for a period of 5 years, which is adopted annually by bylaw. The Charter also requires Council to undertake a process of public consultation regarding the proposed financial plan before it is adopted. Attached, please find the proposed financial plan for bylaw 1281 for Council's consideration. In addition, Section 3 of this report outlines the public consultation as established in 2000. So, the financial plan requirements. This financial plan must be adopted by bylaw at any time before the annual property tax bylaw is adopted. Section 197(1) requires that Council must adopt the annual property tax bylaw before May 15th. A financial plan must set out the proposed expenditures by the municipality, proposed revenue sources, and proposed transfers between funds. The information must set out for each of the 5 years covered in a financial plan. The Act requires certain particulars that must be included. However, the amount of detail is a matter for local determination. The financial plan must not plan for a deficit. Total proposed revenue sources plus transfers from other funds must not exceed the total proposed expenditures and transfers to other funds. The public consultation requirements. Section 166 of the Community Charter requires Council to undertake a process of public consultation regarding the proposed financial plan before it's adopted. The Act does not specify the format of public consultation process, and it may be varied at Council's discretion to suit the local economy. The public consultation process established in 2000 is as follows. After the first, second, and third reading of the financial plan bylaw, we make copies of the financial plan available to the public and then provide the opportunity to the public to comment at the Council meeting. A suggested date and time for the public input session regarding the financial plan is during the regular meeting of Council on April 4th, just prior to this bylaw being before Council for adoption. The highlights to the 2011 budget. The financial plan as presented shows a 0% increase to municipal taxes and is represented in the highlights of the average single-family residence cost as referenced below. CPI has increased by 2.5%. If municipal taxes were to be increased by 2.5%, the average single-family residence would pay $13.92 more. If an increase to municipal taxes was applied to the funds available for capital projects would increase, thus reducing the demand on reserve funds. Non-market change or new construction, our new tax dollars for 2011 amounts to $3,000. New general debt, that's the 87th Street Road reconstruction, is $13,940 to show as a separate line item on the property taxes as debt. The QP contract has expired December 31st. Negotiations are currently taking place, probably in the very near future. At this present time, there's no provisions for any increases in the financial plan as presented. The landfill budget, the hauled liquid waste facility. The assumption is that the facility would remain open for 2011. The two positions that were approved in 2010 but have not been filled to date remain in the operational budgets, and that includes the part-time gardener for 6 months and a cross-connection position. The organizational review of $34,000 plus tax, and general elections net of RDOS and school district recoveries is $16,400. And fire department operating is up by $24,060, which is a 7.97% increase, with the majority of the increase coming from the leasing of the new 2010 pumper truck and the request for health care benefits for the volunteer firemen. So the average single-family residence, their assessment went from $376,842 in 2010 to down to $372,154. So with the increases of the sewer user fees and water user fees of $15 combined, the average single-family residence will pay $17.14 more in 2011. Funds available for capital projects from operating revenues and taxation. The general fund will have $333,305. That's down from $509,880 available in 2010. The sewer fund will have $250,000 available in 2011, down from $329,800 in 2010. However, noted, we have $127,624 being transferred to reserves. In the water fund, we have $368,880 available, as compared to $240,600 in 2010. The 2011 operating expenses, less transfers to other governments, transfers to reserves, resort municipality projects, contingencies, capital expenditures have decreased by $53,469 from 2010. In notes, the general fund is down $25,430, sewer fund was $4,064, and the water fund was $23,975. In 2011, and it's a fairly significant list, and I'll read them all off because I think it's quite important for the community. In 2011, the capital projects budgeted for amount to $14,492,812. These projects are funded from a variety of sources and include taxes, being $333,305, sewer and water user fees of $618,880, contributions from developers, $2,188,242, contributions from customers, $2,057,100, other contributions, $20,000, the Osuis Rural Fire Protection District for $14,140, grants, we've got Municipal Rural Infrastructure Fund, this is for the Northwest Sector Sewer Project, of $3,563,700, from gas tax funding, for the Sonora window replacements, $113,500. Gas tax funding for the community bus of $81,500. Gas tax funding for the trail, which is from the north end of White Sands to the marina, for $100,000. We've got a pending application into the Federation of Canadian Municipalities for $25,000 for our advancement on the sustainability plan. We have the Building Canada Fund, which is $160,800, and that's for the completion of the 87th Street Road reconstruction project. Community Works Fund money for the 62nd Avenue Highway 97 intersection improvements. Towns for Tomorrow, our pending application of $400,000 for the upgrades to the Lakeshore Drive pathway and sidewalks from Pebble Beach down to Highway 97 past our high school. And we've got resort municipality funds of $626,820, reserve funds of $595,115, development cost charges of $944,000, and prior year's accumulated surplus of $2,587,710. The capital projects for 2011 include the landfill site closure plan, sustainability plan, waterfront master plan update, agricultural plan, Southeast Metalork pre-design, computer equipment, website redesign, furniture and equipment, Fuji Court reconstruction, Swan Crescent reconstruction, Spartan Drive reconstruction, 45th Road realignment, 87th Street reconstruction, 68th from 83rd to Main, that is an overlay, 62nd Highway 97 intersection improvements, safety concern, Hummingbird Lane overlay with storm drain, Bartlett Place overlay, 83rd Main to Kingfisher overlay minus from 66 to 68th. We got our pathway / sidewalk upgrades from 62nd Avenue, 115th Pebble Beach, and Lakeshore Drive. We have Highway 3 Pioneer Walkway to Harbor Key Sidewalk, Highway 3 to Tamarack fronting Rattlesnake Canyon Sidewalk, Public Works fleet replacement, trail maintenance equipment, fitness equipment for the fitness room and water fountain. We have window replacement at the Sonora Community Center. We've got a community bus. We have stage upgrades at the Sonora Center, paving at the Sonora Center between the building and staff parking lot, painting of the exterior of the Sonora Center, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, which is an HVAC system for the main office at the Sonora Center, flooring in the office of the Sonora Center, Lions and Kinsman Park upgrades, Gyro Beach retaining wall, protection of swimming areas, being buoys on our lake in front of the beaches, fence installation of the Y-lands, Cottonwood Indigo Park upgrades for Phase 1, flagpoles at Town Hall, Phase 3 trail for the north end of White Sands to the marina, Community Park Gyro Beach area parking lot, demo and rehab of existing parking area at the waterfront, new concession / washroom facility at the waterfront, Phase 1 Marina Lagoon, marina support buildings and washroom facilities, marina parking and trailer staging, fire hall pre-design, town office upgrades, Public Works re-roof for a partial portion of that, streetlight upgrades on Torrey Pines Road, landfill Phase 2 berm, which was already completed here in the early part of this year, landfill fence, landfill compost membrane, and landfill site assessment, fire department equipment, lagoon upgrading, flow meters for the Golf Course Lift Station and Desert Park, Legion Beach trunk sewer upgrading, Northwest Sector Sewer Project, sewer locator, sewer extension to Marina, Sandy Dump Station 115th Street, water metering for the high-end users for meter installation, source to tap study / assessment, the 340 reservoir expansion, water distribution main 74th to Curlew, Station 9 electrical system upgrading construction, and the Oasis Highway 3 right turn lane and Oasis Vedette Drive on-site and off-site services. That's the list of capital projects for 2011. Resort municipality projects. We're budgeting a total of $737,820 in resort municipality funds received by the province to be spent in 2011 in the following related categories. Trail system, $15,000. Affordable housing, $10,000. Wayfinding, interactive signage, $10,000. Beach cleaning, $15,000. Public art, heritage display, $10,000. Boat trailer parking of $23,000. Waterfront facility entrance, $301,820, and that was included in the source of funding for the capital project. The marina facility entrance of $290,000, that was also included in the source of funding for the capital project. We've got visitor activity enhancement, community beautification, visitor activity enhancement was $15,000, community beautification of $10,000, waterfront safety, $35,000 was included in our source of funding for capital projects, and program administration of $3,000. So the implications for the community, a significant number of capital projects are planned for 2011 that will enhance the community and improve the infrastructure for the town and rural service areas. Organizationally, no significant operational changes other than those referenced above in the highlights to the 2011 budget. And from a budget perspective, some significant operating revenue and expenditure changes to note is solid waste management. Our revenues were down by $86,500 for budgeted revenues, and our budgeted building and development services revenues are down by $151,210. And from the expenditure side, general government is up by $40,490. This is mainly conducive to the election coming up, and the organizational review costs that sent it over. Protective services, operational costs are up by $23,060. Planning and development services, the operational expenditures are actually down by $34,400, and transportation is down by $21,400. Leisure services is down by $47,920. So the options brought forward to council, the first option is to give first 3 readings of Financial Plan Bylaw 1281, 2011, with a 2.5% increase to municipal taxes. Option 2 is to give first 3 readings to Financial Plan Bylaw 1281, 2011, as presented, which has a 0% increase to taxes. And option 3 is to defer first 3 readings of the Financial Plan Bylaw 1281. So from an administrative perspective, we're recommending option 1 for a small increase to enable municipal operations to respond to inflationary pressures. This increase will result in a lesser amount being taken out of reserves to enable capital projects and would result in an additional $13.92 increase to the average single-family residence. That's my report.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Zackel. Council's wishes, please. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I'll move to accept option 1. I don't feel any need to reread it again. It was made quite clear by Mr. Zackel.
Councillor Cronmiller is seconding. Any discussion? Councillor Cronmiller.
I'll speak to it.
Okay, Councillor Chadsey.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm going to speak in favor of the motion. I think that each one of us, certainly myself, really wanted to have a 0 increase. And I know that we're capable of having it, and that staff is asking for the 2.5 for a cushion, so that should something come along, we're not caught short. And I have to respect that for them. So even though I would like to be able to brag about a 0% increase, I do support the 2.5, and I completely understand. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Chadsey. Councillor Cronmiller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too had a lot of reservations looking at this and saying, please, can I stand up and be counted at 2.5%, or should it be 0%? And when I look at all the things that are to be accomplished this year at 0%, it's phenomenal in my mind. But also when I look ahead to the community in the future with development of a fire hall, further developments, when I look at these plans that we have, next year we'll have more plans and more things that'll need doing. We won't have some of the grants that we have this year that allow us to do some of these things. When I look at the world economy and just the price of fuel alone and what it will cost to fuel our fleet of vehicles and how much that will increase some of our things. We never know what emergencies will come along this year that we want to have covered. So I really think that in my mind is a responsibility to my community that 2.5 is a valid increase. When we look at the big picture, it's not real big, and it really probably amounts to about, what did I look at, maybe $13.92 a year. Isn't much in the big picture on the average assessment value, and I think that $2 a month is pretty easy to take for our citizens here, and to accomplish these things, I think is just awesome. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Councillor Cronmiller. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I too feel that we've got a very impressive list of things that we are going to accomplish, and I've thought about this quite a lot since our discussions, and we are actually very fortunate this year to have not only a windfall of tourism money to utilize, but also we have the accumulated surpluses and amenity benefits that we have received from developments of the past few years. And these are not always going to happen. We have money from the Oasis, we have money from Willow Beach, we have money from Indigo, and it's these developments that have made some of these things possible. But they're not necessarily always going to be there. They're not always going to last. And we saw what happened, what the reaction was to a recent announcement about minimum wage. As necessary as that was, here's a 25% increase happening in 1 year. And so rather than us trying to artificially, I think, tap our reserves and keep our taxes down to a zero base, I think rather than be hit by a necessary increase at some time down the road, it's much better for us to have those small increments so that we can maintain our financial health and grow stronger, because we know there are going to be many things that have to be done, things that we aren't aware of, and we are very aware of the ones that we do have to do that are going to be quite costly. So as much as I would like to see us not increase taxes, I think that keeping to a cost of living increase is not only reasonable but prudent.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Councillor Rhodes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So budgets for municipalities are a process that you go through every year. What this document that you're seeing is kind of closing in at the end of it. And we spend a few days every year going over all the various items. And when we started off with this process this year, I was very, very much in favor and was quite vocal about a 0% tax increase. And as you work through the process and you see some of the wonderful things that we can do in our community, there's always that harsh reality that kicks in at the end of the day. How are you going to pay for it? And, you know, the staff has done a wonderful job with this. This is an incredibly impressive list of projects that we're going to go through. I'd put this list up against any other community in British Columbia. And you know, with that in mind, and you compare us to other communities all across British Columbia that have profound financial difficulties, you know, some of them are up around the two-digit marks in increase in municipal taxes. And, you know, for us to be able to accomplish what we need to do, what we really would like to do, and some dream projects in there as well, I think a 2.5% increase is very reasonable, and at the end of the day, we're going to be a much better community.
Thanks, Councillor Rhodes. And I guess when I looked at this and the amount of projects that are being done, it's absolutely phenomenal. And I think you heard that all of council wanted a 0% increase. I was certainly one of those. I thought it was attainable. And actually it was attainable. And what the turning point was, is why we didn't come in with a 0, is really it was false economy in robbing from our reserves. So that's not right either. You know, you don't rob from your reserves just to bring in a zero increase. This is the right number for not robbing our reserves and running a sound fiscal financial ship. And that's what this budget is doing, with an absolutely abundance of projects to improve the community for the people living here. This is absolutely incredible. When Mr. Zackel was reading off the list, I was looking at Mr. Doucette's face, because he's the one that's going to have to deliver it all, and his face was getting longer and longer as the list grew and grew and grew. So this is really good. I think this just leaves us in great shape, and again, one of the leading communities in British Columbia. So I'm very happy with this. And without anything further being said, all in favor of receiving this wonderful budget? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Chadsey?
I'm in favor.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mr. Zackel. Lot of long, hard work there. I'd come by the town hall here at 8 o'clock at night I remember one time I was sneaking in to Xerox something or get a piece of paper, and I come in and you do the alarm thing, and I hear a voice upstairs, "I'm here!" So a lot of hours go into to bringing this to fruition. So thanks a lot, Mr. Zacco. Back to the agenda, and we're still on bylaws. Parks and Community Facilities Bylaw number 1278 from Corporate Services.
I'll speak to that.
Okay, Mr. Romanko, please.
I think yes, I'll speak in our Corporate Services Director's absence. This bylaw moved one too far ahead. There was a general need to update our Parks bylaw, and in the past there have been no provisions under the Parks bylaw or any other bylaw for community facilities such as the Sonora Center, the band shell, the water fountain. It also did not give the town or the RCMP powers to remove persons from parks for non-compliance of bylaws. This new bylaw covers all these issues. This new bylaw addresses, or this updated bylaw, addresses things like advertising, animals, damage to park infrastructure, encroachments, temporary overnight shelter, hours of operation, interference by patrons of our bylaw officer, nuisance, loitering and congregating, liquor, games, swimming and bathing, beach regulations, sale and goods and services, vehicles, and other activities. This bylaw will also cover the loss of access for those who do not comply with the bylaw and seizure and detention of items. In general, most of the sections had reference to the previous bylaw, but not to the extent that they have been written into the bylaw. The loitering section was expanded to give more power and control over the number of people that can be in one group in a park, playground, or recreation area without written authorization of the recreation director. This will assist the bylaw officer in the control of larger crowds. The loss of access rights section is new to Osoyoos. In the past, other than the municipal ticket, there was no other formal way to enforce compliance with bylaw. This new section will give the power to the CAO or his designate, bylaw officer, or the RCMP to remove persons from the park or community facilities who do not adhere to the orders or comply to our bylaws. In the previous bylaw, we did not have a section to deal with the seizure or detention of articles left in the park. In particular, if someone leaves camping equipment or other items unattended, under this new bylaw, we have the authority to remove it. With the removal, we shall have some guidelines on retention times and fees, which are now covered under the section of this bylaw. The overall implication of this bylaw is that we'll have a better, more contemporary bylaw to allow better use and enjoyment of our parks. The overall impact on the organization is that there will be more enhanced tools for our bylaw enforcement people to allow for enforcement. Although there may be increased opportunity for enforcement, there really are no budgetary impacts. And the options being presented by the administration include that Council give first reading to the Parks and Community Facilities Bylaw number 1278, 2011, and that this bylaw be advertised to inform the public of Council's consideration of this bylaw. Option 2, that this bylaw be referred back to staff for further review, and number 3, that this bylaw be abandoned. Staff are recommending option number 1.
Thank you. Councillor Ryan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would move option 1, which is that Council give first reading to the Parks and Community Facilities Bylaw number 1278, 2011, and that this bylaw be advertised to inform the public of Council's consideration of this bylaw.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Councillor Chadsey. Any discussion? Councillor Ryan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Council has spent a great deal of time on this, and it was really something that we felt was really important based on our previous experience of last year and previous years. And so we've been able to, in one bylaw, to incorporate all sorts of aspects of proper behavior and so on in the parks and in the community facilities and in respecting them. And so I invite you and encourage you to check this bylaw out. It's on our website. I'm sure we'll have copies of it available at the front counter. And I think council wants to hear from the public, as well as give an opportunity, I think, before it is finally approved to receive feedback.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Cronmiller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to hold up this bylaw, but I think there's something needs to be added to this bylaw. I've seen it happen all over the country, all over North America, and probably most of the world, and it's time we did get on board. I'd like to see us add in here that no smoking is allowed in our parks. And I'm not sure how to get that to fit in here, but I don't want to hold this up, so I think the rest of it is really important. But I'd like to see that added to this, and so I could make a motion that we ask staff to look at adding no smoking in our parks bylaw.
Okay, Ms. Martineau, please. Comments on that, please.
Okay. Okay. Well, first, our council procedure bylaw requires that we can't have two main motions on the floor. Okay. So what we need to first do is move forward with the current motion that's on the floor, and then we can go forward with Councillor Cronmiller's motion.
Okay.
All right. Okay. I'll withdraw it at this time and.
Okay, so we're dealing with the bylaw and the motion 1278 as it was presented.
Exactly, because basically when you're doing first reading, what you're doing is you're introducing the bylaw, and then what we can do, because we can tweak it when it has first reading and second reading. It's just that after third reading's been given that we can't tweak it anymore. Right. So at this point we can give it first reading, and then we can make a resolution to amend the bylaw, and then when it comes back for second and third reading, those amendments will then be showing in that.
Okay, so going back to the original bylaw, yeah, I think it's real positive. It's going to give both some teeth and some tools to our bylaw enforcement folks out there. We've had some gaping holes in what we could do. There was violators down there and people that were offending, but we couldn't do anything about it. So this just closes up a lot of loopholes. So hearing no further discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Aye. Thanks, Councillor Chadsey. So that is passed. So do we want that? The resolution now? The amendment?
So I'd make a motion that we ask staff to add that no smoking be allowed in all of our parks in the community.
I'll second that.
Councillor Chadley, second. Any further discussion on that? Councillor Rhodes.
I wonder if we could perhaps add in a few of our town-owned properties, like the area out here, which is officially not a park.
Okay, Mr. Romanko, how can we do that? All town-owned property?
I'm just thinking right now, although the parks aren't, I don't think all our parks are named. It would have to be something under a general heading of all public parks or all public park areas. Public, I don't know if we want
parkland.
Well, then if we go to all public lands, then we're including things like no smoking within I don't know what it is. Is it 3 or 4 meters from the Sonora Center doors and
these doors
and those doors? So I think it becomes a broader issue than just smoking and no smoking in the parklands. But again, as council wants to proceed. But this is in fact the Parks and Community Facilities bylaw, so it would would stand to that.
Well, because I don't want to see us go down, make a wrong move here. So we have it out there for the parks. It is, and then we have a time frame that we can tweak this up to third reading. So we're just going at first reading tonight. Let's wait till we have our hearing, and will this go to public hearing? No.
No, it won't go to public hearing. We'll be going to an advertising program, informing people, making the bylaw available, and then enabling them encouraging them to either write or come to council when the council does second and third reading.
Okay, well, I think we're pretty good right now. I think the intent is out there, and if we go with first reading now, we're open for further information and we have no smoking in the parks. Is that what we have out there right now, Ms. Martineau?
Currently, Ted's motion was parks and facilities.
I think I just said public parks.
Public parks. Public park areas. And the reason I'm saying that is because I believe there's employees that smoke. And what you're basically saying, you can't smoke inside. Now they can't smoke outside. Now you're telling them to get off town property if they are smokers. I don't know that we should be going down there without a little more dialogue with administrative staff. Councillor Cronmiller.
And I would agree. I think, as Councillor Rhodes mentioned, the next door here is a public area, and what do we call it and class that? So I would ask staff to look at some of those types of areas. I understand also what you've said, Mr. Mayor, and I would agree with that. So I think it's just we'll ask staff to also look at the other public areas that we have that aren't designated parks.
Well, the next this 2-week period will allow us to, because I don't know that we've done any real exploration of the whole parks, no smoking. I know we're aware of it. This will allow us to do some research in that area and then bring the information back to council prior to the second reading.
Okay, council's happy with that situation. Okay, so we'll still pass Councillor Cronmiller's motion. All in favor?
I'm
Opposed?
in favor.
Thank you. Carried. Under bylaws, number 6, the Good Neighbor Bylaw, number 1277, corporate services, through Mr. Romanko, please.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. This is a newly named bylaw in the sense of Good Neighbor Bylaw number 1277, 2011. A number of updatings were required to some of our current regulatory bylaws. At the same time, new bylaws were being considered to assist us in the enforcement of certain activities. This bylaw combines several bylaws into one, which is permitted under the community charter. It's more of a contemporary naming. Several communities have gone to what's referred to as the Good Neighbor Bylaw. As an overview, the bylaw includes things like street nuisances, i.e. panhandling, property maintenance, including snow removal and sidewalk sweeping, littering, health regulations, firearms and bows, explosives and fireworks, and noise regulations. The property maintenance, firearms and bows, explosives and fireworks, and noise regulations of this bylaw were all bylaws unto themselves. However, they required updating and amendments. The street nuisances, littering, and health regulation sections are new. They are being added as a result of enforcement issues, particularly in the summer months. All offenses will have an MTI fine attached to it through the new MTI bylaw, which is currently being drafted. Since this bylaw deals with maintenance along sidewalks and boulevards, which may be adjacent to either Highway 97 or Highway 3, the Minister of Transportation of approval is required with respect to those sections. As well, the Minister of Health approval is required with respect to the health regulation sections. These approvals must be received prior to adoption. So overall community implications are that we'll have one bylaw that takes a look at dealing with a number of of areas that need enforcement, including noise and unsightly properties. Organizationally, we'll be able to deal with these activities under only one bylaw. There's no budgetary implications, although in terms of organizationally, there may be additional work activities identified for bylaw enforcement. The options that are being presented by the administration include that Council read the Good Neighbor Bylaw number 1277 2011 for a first time, and that this bylaw be advertised to inform the general public of Council's consideration of this bylaw. Option 2, that this bylaw be referred back to staff for further review. And number 3, that this bylaw be abandoned. And staff is recommending option number 1.
Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move option 1, that Council read Good Neighbor Bylaw number 1277, 2011, the first time, and that this bylaw be advertised to inform the public of Council's consideration of this bylaw.
Cube, seconder. Councillor Cronmiller. Any discussion? Are you sure we haven't got away this light all day? Councillor Ryan.
I'll step up to the plate, Mr. Mayor. Well, again, this is an important bylaw, and it does have a number of matters that will be impacting on individuals as well as on owners of property and of retail outlets and so on. So I would encourage everybody to look it over, see how it applies to your situation, and to give us your comments and your feedback. Again, it's a matter of trying to make sure that our community is a welcoming one, that it's attractive, it's clean, it's free from all kinds of harassment, and so please do have a look at it and let us know what your thoughts are, but particularly read it so that you can see how it is going to affect your situation.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I guess we could call this bylaw the what we should have learned in kindergarten bylaw, but Councillor Cronmiller.
Well, I just wanted to comment that from past experience in a past life, that many of these things in this bylaw came under different titles. And I wanted to just emphasize the idea of good neighbor bylaw. I think good neighbor is the key to it, is to be, that we all be good neighbors within our community, and I think this bylaw highlights many of the things that we can do to ensure that we are all good neighbors.
Thanks, Councillor Cronmiller. All in favor of this bylaw? Opposed?
I in favor.
Aye from Yuma. That is passed. Next item, going into the business part of the meeting, we have a report from Director of Operations, Mr. Doucette, on fuel alternatives. This was at the direction of Council to find out more. Mr. Doucette.
First of all, thanks, Jim, for all the keeping it interesting at Public Works this year. Yes, like I say, in 2011, part of the budget that Jim just mentioned, we do have a vehicle. Council asked for me to look at all the alternative fuels, which I did. I contacted other municipalities, local mechanics, our mechanic, et cetera, et cetera. We have no objection to any of the alternative fuels, but I guess the bottom line is we need a vehicle that's going to work for us, and this is going to be a water and sewer utility vehicle, and have the resources available to us. So at this point, like I say, and then nowadays there are some fairly, like I say, the flex fuel vehicles are pretty amazing from what I can see. And at this point, like I say, I think the report is self-explanatory. One thing that I didn't mention in here is basically the natural gas. Now, I contacted Fortis. They're basically, now that they're part of terrorism as well, or vice versa, they are looking at that option as well, similar to Kelowna. But at this point, there's no place where you can get it. But that might be something in the future to look at. For some reason, a lot of these, like I say, these municipalities are going away from propane. I don't know, they didn't do any specification. We know that propane is not as powerful, or it loses a lot of power. So maybe that's the bottom line here. But in hybrids, unfortunately, again, most of these municipalities that I talked about, they look at the vehicle that's needed, and then they deal from there. Kelowna, they have one hybrid, similar to our fire chiefs, for their painting crew, which is fine. But for our purpose, that will not work. So, looking at all the options of hybrid, diesel, and the gas, which you have to convert to propane after, because they don't just come in as propane vehicles. And the flex fuel. Now, the flex fuel is two things. It's the vehicle that they have now, is, as you know, it utilizes the number of cylinders necessary. It's like riding a bike. If you go up a hill, you need more power. If you're going downhill, you don't need any. So it goes down cylinders. So it's very efficient in that way. Again, I'm no mechanic. I'm just trying to pass on what I've learned in the last little bit here on vehicles. So with that in mind, I guess those were the options, and then we do recommend the flex gas engine for those purposes. The truck that we need and what's available to us.
So when you were talking flex fuel, no, is that what it was?
Yeah. Well, basically, there's other things like hydrogen gas, and we'd be part of it.
Right.
We don't have that yet, and it could happen. Who knows? That's going to be another option when
So flex fuel, the number of cylinders being what's required for the job, but running on gas.
That's right.
Okay.
At this point, yeah.
Okay. Council, any questions? Councillor Rhodes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, you had to know I was going to ask this. Been through it several times before. The hybrid truck design, I wonder if you could just elaborate a little bit more on why it will not work in our...
Well, what it is, it's a crew cab, number one, with a short box. Crew cab for us is, at this point, it's not a recommended application for us. And the short box, again, like I said, the vehicle that we're looking at here is to get a utility box on it so that all the tools and the materials for the water and sewer people that go to a job, they have everything available, or mostly the things available. Like I said, we looked at it. I discussed this also with other municipalities, and again, like I said, they have their purpose, but not necessarily for what we're looking at this point. We did get a hybrid vehicle this year, actually, and then we just made we gave it to our recreational director. He has now a hybrid vehicle, a car, so. And then we just sort of took his half-ton back.
Okay.
But like I say, there are, I'm sure there'll be other things coming. And then, again, like I say, if we had a depot for all our fleet, that'd be a different story too. But again, a lot of these things are not easy to work on as well, and have to go out of town to usually get repaired as well. So it's just one of those things. Like I say, we just feel like for this particular vehicle, this is our best bet.
Council, any further questions? Councillor Ryan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Doucette, what fuels would this use if they were available besides gasoline?
Hydrogen, I believe it is. Yeah. And then there's another one too, I can't remember what it is, but I think hydrogen is the one I think the states are slowly getting into that. So maybe we're a step ahead of our time here, I don't know.
Okay. Okay, so were we looking for a recommendation out of this, or just to receive? Because we did send you out for further information. Yep. There are some options here. Okay, Council, what are your wishes? Councillor Cronmiller.
I'll move that we move option 4 to purchase a flex fuel gas truck.
Okay, and the seconder, Councillor Ryan. Discussion on that, please. Anything further, Councillor Chadsey?
I'm in favor.
Okay, Councillor Cronmiller?
Well, just as I understand it, being one who owns something similar in a flex fuel car, works pretty good. Well, it stands for it.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you, Mr. Doucette. Okay, now we are into the development variance permit. Some very, very patient folks here sitting in the back of the room, seeing where this is going to go. and I'll call on Mr. Steve Shannon from the Planning Department. I guess before he gets right into it, communities have many different ways of dealing with variances. Asuyas in the past used to have a variance panel or a variance committee, and they made the decisions, but council at the end of the day still had to carry that decision forward. So I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, we got away from a variance panel, and the variances are being done with by town council. So everybody hears the same thing, and I think it's a lot better this way. So Mr. Shannon, please.
Yeah, good afternoon. First off, I'd like to advise council that staff do not support the proposed variances. Variances are always difficult applications to process at any time, but one of the most important factors considered by staff when reviewing variances is whether or not an applicant can show clear hardship. This is quite a lengthy report, so I'm not going to read through my entire report, but I'm going to provide you guys with some background information on the application and our reasons for not supporting the variances. In the spring of 2010, staff reviewed the application and advised the applicant that staff could not support the proposed variances because we felt there was no hardship. And this does not in no way prohibit an applicant from submitting an application to be considered by council. That's important to note. And on February 15, 2011, the applicant submitted a development variance permit application to allow for the construction of a swimming pool in his front yard. The application includes 2 major variances, one to reduce the front setback from 19 foot 6 feet to 7 feet. That's close to a 300% variance. And second, to allow a structure in the front yard which is not allowed under the provisions of the town zoning bylaw. I provided council with the necessary definitions to explain why a structure is not permitted in the front yard. And moving on here, the house at 4016 Pebble Beach Drive was constructed about 15 years ago. The applicant purchased the property 3 years ago, and the residence has been operating as a bed and breakfast for the past 2 years. When the house was constructed, there was not enough space provided in the backyard for a swimming pool. And in our opinion, the applicant should have known this when the house was purchased, that there wasn't enough room in the backyard to place a pool. The attached site plan sketch shows that the applicant has constructed a deck covering a large portion of the rear yard. And then there's a number of renderings and sketches and surveys and other things that are attached to this report, such as a 3D rendering of the proposed swimming pool if it was constructed. If approved, the implications to the community are that other residents may want a swimming pool in their front yard, and residents may not consider this to be an appropriate use in their front yard. Council's options are pretty straightforward: to either approve the variances or not to approve the variances. So in the opinion of staff, there's no clear hardship, and if the proposed variances are approved, it will set a precedent. Therefore, staff do not recommend approving the variances.
Any questions of Mr. Shannon? I'm going to allow you to have an opportunity to speak if you'd like, but I guess you can also have a question of Okay, thank you. Mr. Cronmiller? Councillor Cronmiller?
Mr. Shannon, does other residents don't have a pool in front? I know of another one up in that subdivision has a pool in the front yard. Are they in violation of the bylaw, or is the bylaw changed?
It's a very good question. The applicant, when he came in the second time in 2011, provided staff with a number of pictures of various locations throughout the town that have swimming pools. And we reviewed all of the applicant's research as it pertained to single-family residential lots. And we did find one site in Dividend Ridge where there was a pool in the front yard, and when we researched the files, it did not comply with the setbacks. not complete zoning. I can't speak to how that happened.
It would be called no building permit. Councillor Rhodes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to ask a question about the precedent comment. When you apply for a variance, is they're all evaluated on their own merit, are they not? Or because you could have two situations very similar and some of the conditions could be different. But when you apply for a variance, they're evaluated on their own merit, are they not?
Yes, they are.
So the precedent is not really there. Just because you do one thing, subtle changes in the next application could also influence that as well.
Well, it's structure's not allowed in the front yard. So if you allow the structure in the front yard by approving a variance, then you'd be setting a precedent. A lot of other people, in our opinion, may come out and want the same variance because you've gone ahead and approved one.
Any, Councillor Cronmiller?
I have one other question. When I look at the picture of the residence with the proposed picture with the pool in front, there's a wall down below, just off the street and the sidewalk. Is that the existing wall, do you know? Is that the one that's there now?
The wall, the lowest one.
The low one, yeah.
The low one is the existing wall that's
Okay.
there now, yeah. The upper one that's just underneath the pool that's fenced in on the 3D rendering
Yeah.
is the
Is the new
proposed
one, yeah.
pool.
Okay.
Further, thanks,
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councillor Chadsey?
I'm not hearing Mr. Shannon too well, but if there is a point in a lull in the conversation, I'd like to make a motion.
We're not done with receiving the information yet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We're not done with the presentation yet, Councillor Chadsey.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Shannon, anything further?
No.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna allow the applicant, Mr. Peter Hastings and/or Carolyn Sinclair to present to council. This is not a mandate of the charter or anything or our bylaw, but we think it's a fair process. So, and particularly since you sat here for all the time that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that, and thank you, Council, for giving me the time to make a few suggestions that I hope will help in your decision. My name, as the Mayor mentioned, is Peter Hastings. My wife is Carolyn Sinclair, and we've been pursuing this swimming pool idea since before we bought the house. The original swimming pool company that we spoke to said, no problem, we can do it, no trouble, and actually took $9,000 of our money that they're still saying they're going to return to us, and weren't able to accomplish anything at all. As Steve mentioned, last year we approached the city and they said no, and it wasn't until sometime after that I spoke to one of the councillors who suggested that I was in a position to come to council and ask for a variance. So this isn't a new issue in our mind, although it is in yours. There are a couple of things that I need to address. The first one is the hardship issue, which apparently is something quite serious as far as a variance is concerned, and I can understand that. And in this particular case, the backyard, as Steve mentioned, is not a place where we can put a pool. Not only is it small, the house was set far back on the property, but also it's solid rock. And so even a narrow lap pool or something of that nature wouldn't be practical in that area. We'd have to blast, and we'd probably move both our own and our neighbor's house off the foundation. So that was out of the question. So it has been established that it is the only place that we can put it. And as I say, this was looked into prior to our buying the house, and we were at that time misled. Now, as far as the precedence thing is concerned, it's been addressed already that there has been a precedent set in the area. At a 11700 golf course, there is a almost identical situation to what we want to do. The wall isn't as high. We have 4 feet of wall now. We'll have another 4 feet of wall before the pool goes in to level it to grade with the front of the house. And so the pool itself will not be visible from the street, which the one on golf course isn't, for that matter. And then the other one that certainly is a precedent, although Steve made a point of mentioning single-family homes only. We do have a extensive pool and hot tub and sort of Rattlesnake Canyon-looking waterfall right at the corner of Pebble Beach and Golf Course Drive that has indeed set a precedent of the same nature. So on both those issues, I feel that the hardship has been established and the precedent has been established. Now, there is that 3D picture I noticed was up on the screen a few minutes ago. I don't think I have to dwell on that, except to suggest that if you compare that picture with the picture of the present front yard, there's certainly going to be an aesthetic improvement as far as that corner is concerned. As you drive up Pebble Beach Drive, whether we like it or not, it's the most obvious thing as you drive up the street is our rather tall house with this gravel pit in the front yard. And we really feel that this would improve the Pebble Beach Drive, never mind our house. And so that I would like you to keep in mind. Above and beyond that, in the report, and I'll be as brief as I can, there were some letters. There were 2 letters from neighbors of ours suggesting that they were very happy with the idea. And there was a list of signatures from 9 neighbors that suggested that they too felt that it would be an acceptable application. Now, above and beyond that, there was an email from the people directly across the street from us about whom we were most concerned, and they're in Yuma, and they emailed us back and said that good for you guys for still trying, and we're fine with it. Now, above and beyond that, we've since gained signatures from 9 more households suggesting that they too are in favor, and I'm sure we would have had more, except a lot of our neighbors are still in the south. And so I believe that as a result of what I've just drawn to your attention, the precedents, the hardship, and the encouragement that we've had from the neighborhood, that this is a very logical application, and I hope you can see it the same way. Thank you for your time, and anybody have any questions?
Well, we'll have have Councillor Chadsey first, please. Hello, Councillor Chadsey.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that council approve development variance permit number 1101 for 4016 Pebble Beach Drive for the placement of a swim pool in the front yard.
Thank you. Seconder for that, please. Councillor Rhodes. Now we can have discussion, and Mr. Hastings will just see if there's any questions, direct questions here. Councillor Ryan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess the question for Mr. Shannon. If this pool were to be built as indicated, would it meet all the other requirements for fencing and so on that we would ask of a pool installer or owner when they're putting in a pool? Okay, but there is space, sufficient space for the deck and for the fence to be. I don't know if it has to be a certain distance away from the pool itself.
Okay. Okay, just before that happens, was there any further questions of Mr. Hastings, please? Okay, thank you, Mr. Hastings, for your input. Now, we have an individual at the back of the room that's indicating he would like to speak. I don't believe, sir, you can. I don't believe so. No, we allowed...
Applicant.
Just a minute, please. Just a minute, please. Ms. Martineau?
Okay. Council can pass a motion to allow him to speak because he's not on the current agenda.
Okay. I would certainly entertain that motion. Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Cronmiller, all in favor. Opposed, carried. Yes, sir, you may speak, and then we'll go to Mr. Shannon. And maybe identify yourself and your address, sir.
My name is Jim Collins. I live at 11705 La Costa. I live in that neighborhood. I look down at that area, and I personally am opposed, okay, to the pool idea, and would like to say that there are some people that could be opposed that aren't back from their holidays down south too. So, in my opinion, it won't be pretty to the eye. I'll be looking at numerous walls.
Okay, and where are you sitting? Like the whole road above it, way up on top, or?
He's at the corner of La Costa.
Yeah.
And so I'm up above on the.
You're looking down on him.
Yes,
Okay.
I'll look inside his pool anyway.
Okay. 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 Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Shannon, please.
Just a couple of points I wanted to point out. I mentioned that we'd researched all the other swimming pools that we could find based on the photographic evidence that was provided based on single-family residential lots. I didn't mention the one up the street because it was part of a multifamily development permit application that was approved by council a couple of years back. The swimming pool that was referenced by Mr. Hastings was built on a parcel of land that was purchased from the town as amenity space for that development, and the waterfall feature and all of that stuff was all dealt with as part of the development permit application. Like I say, as amenity space, there was no variances or anything involved with that application. I wanted to point that out. And secondly, I'm certain everybody's read the full version of this report. There is a definition of hardship in the front of the report. It says that it commonly applies to in situations where the lot in question has peculiar physical conditions, including small lot size, irregular lot shape, or exceptional topography conditions, which make it impractical to develop in strict conformity with bylaw standards. I'd just like you to know that the minimum lot size in Dividend Ridge and the R1 properties is 665 meters squared. And I just did a quick, it's irregularly shaped lot, so you can't just go length times width, but I'm confident to say that it's over 700 meters squared, so it is in no way a small lot.
Thank you. Councillor Cronmiller.
I have one further question to Mr. Shannon. When I looked at this place here, no, I'm going to lose it. The pool is considered a structure?
That's right.
So it would be the same as a garage, for instance?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Council, anything further?
I'd like to speak, if I could, to the motion.
Councillor Chadsey, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's very difficult to talk through a telephone when I can't actually look at people. I support this motion. I think that the whole purpose of a variance is when a person's condition or the condition of land or their wants or needs or desires are over and above exceptional or don't fit in to the mold of our regular zoning requirements. I'm not sure where hardship kind of stepped into it. But in this case, I'm familiar with the lot. I know that it is quite rocky. I see the house as being elevated from the street, and aesthetically, I think that it can be very pleasing, and nobody will even know there's a pool there. I think for safety, it's really unlikely that a 2-year-old will climb up that grade to get into the pool. The other lot in question, I questioned staff recommendation based on setting a precedent. First of all, it isn't a precedent that they should be worried about. As Councillor Rhodes pointed out, everybody comes to the council with a variance, and council looks at that variance based on that individual property. But since it was raised, there is another lot in Dividend Ridge that did seek a variance, and they do have a pool in their front yard. And so I don't follow the recommendation of staff because I don't believe that they've given examples or reasons based on this particular application. And I see the application as being aesthetically pleasing and not a security and no impact on the adjacent and surrounding areas. And that's my reason for supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Chadsey. Councillor Cronmiller.
Not to prolong the afternoon, but I did want to speak in favor of the motion. I've looked at this residence. I've looked at the corner. I too don't find this pool to be obtrusive to the area. I've looked at some other things in another building that I've been made aware of in the area that is a garage structure large enough to house a motorhome that I find really is obtrusive, but fits the requirements and fits the rules of our zoning bylaws, and so that it's allowed to be built. This is much more pleasing to me than that is, and hopefully that one, when it's finished, will look better. But at any rate, I think that's what's important, and there was mention of a traffic safety feature. I didn't see any problem with that either. I drove there and around the corner and stuff. It's not a problem to vision on the street at all either, so I would speak in favor of them.
Councillor Ryan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I would speak in favor of it as well. I find the picture there, if it can turn out as well as that picture, that design representation, I think it would be attractive. And you know, I don't live in that area, but I know the lots, and I know that the whole development was carved out of a rocky mountain, and it's very hard to do much with backyards, so I would support the variance as an exception on its own merits, not to stress it.
I think that's what we have to keep in mind, that these are one-ofs. I was also up there yesterday afternoon. Martha and I were up there yesterday afternoon. I did see the garage that you were referring to. Yes, I saw that, and I looked at the applicant's situation here, and we did ask the question about the structural aspects of that, and that's all in the building permit. If this was to pass, that's when you would be looking at an engineered wall and all those sort of things would all come into play at that point. That's correct, Mr. Shannon? Okay, is there any further discussion on this? Could we have the motion, just the motion, Ms. Martineau, please?
Development variance permit application number 11-01 for the placement of a swimming pool in the front yard be approved.
Thank you very much. We'll have to get these mics fixed for our next meeting. All in favor? Opposed?
Favor.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Shannon. That was a good report. Obviously, council felt differently, so that's what variances are all about. Thank you. Mr. Zackel.
Mr. Mayor, I'm stepping in for our Director of Corporate Services for the next report.
Oh, okay, okay, thank you. I thought, wow, is that ever being eager? Okay, under business, we have this Victim Services Program, a report coming from Corporate Services, Ms. Van Vienen, being presented by Mr. Zacco. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. So the Victim Services Program for 2011-2012, it's a funding agreement that's before Council. The Town of Osoyoos has administered the Victim Services Program for Osoyoos since 2005. The contract runs for a 1-year period from April 1st to March 31st of the following year. The total funding for the program for 2011-2012 is $35,560, which is made up of 4 payments to the Town of Osoyoos in an amount of $8,890 as per the Schedule C. Appendix F is not included with the contract as it contains the specific personal information regarding the program coordinator and other contact information, as well as detailed funding and other FOI issues. The overview of this funding for the Victim Services Program, the funding for the program will not be sent to the town until the contract has been executed by both the town as a contractor and the province. Insurance is not an issue as we cover the program under the town's liability policy, that's the Municipal Insurance Association. And the town also covers WCV and reimbursement of vehicle insurance through the program funding. With respect to the supervision and the determination of what services are provided to victims, this has been put in the hands of the RCMP officer in charge to decide along with the program manager. There is no costing to the Town of Osoyoos for being the administrator or supervisor of this contract, other than doing the accounting for the system. So from the community perspective, providing victim services program through the RCMP. Organizationally, the administration of the funding, which I alluded to, and no budget implications. So the options are for the mayor and corporate officer to sign the 2011-2012 victim service agreement, or that council not enter into the agreement with the victim services program. And the recommendation would be that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to sign the agreement.
Mr. Zacco, this used to be shared with Oliver. Is that, where am I off track here?
The Victim Services Program, there were separate programs for both the Town of Osoyoos and the Town of Oliver and the Village of Keremeos.
Right.
Town of Osoyoos administered those programs for the other jurisdictions before. In previous years, previous councils determined that it was in the best interest of the other municipalities to take care of their own areas, and thus that we saw the Village of Keremeos and Town of Oliver's contracts go back to their communities, and we only administer our contract for the Town of Osoyoos.
Okay. Now, we wouldn't all be using the same person, would we? Do we have our own, or?
We have a contract agreement, employment contract agreement with the current program coordinator for our area. That program coordinator is working out of the Town of Oliver as well, but it's done through a separate contract agreement. So separate, different conditions, different working scenario compared to ours.
Okay. Councillor Cronmiller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be pleased to move option 1.
Seconder? Councillor
I'll
Rhodes?
second.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess questions to Zacco. So we'll be retaining the same individual that we have at the moment, who's been with us for a couple of terms.
Definitely, the program coordinator that we've got working for the Victim Services Program has been doing an exceptional job, and we'd definitely be renewing that contract.
Okay, and her supervision is by the RCMP sergeant.
The officer in charge, yes, definitely.
Yes, okay. And do we receive any compensation, financial compensation, for administering this?
No, we've opted against charging any administration against this project. The total funding for this project is $35,560, and it doesn't allow for a lot of hours for the program coordinator to do her job. I think we're talking about 18 hours a week, which is not a lot of hours when you're having to deal to help the victims.
Thank you.
Anything further? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Chadsey. Going into business number 4, the Resort Municipality Initiative. This is the funding agreement between the town of Vesuvius and the province. Mr. Romanko, please.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. The province of BC created the Resort Municipality Initiatives grant program as a mechanism to assist 14 designated resort municipalities to develop projects that will increase community tourism. We currently have in our treasury of the town $477,820, and will receive $267,116 in 2011 if council agrees to sign the attached agreement. The attached agreement just came to me last week, and with it came clarification in terms of what the province is asking for. And what they want attached as a schedule of projects is only the projects that are approved within our current plan. So I've submitted a new project sheet that identifies only our existing project plans. Subsequent to, if we sign the agreement, we can change our plans, and that's what we intend to do. We will have a public, a stakeholder information session at the end of March, at which time we'll be rolling out to the stakeholders the projects that were approved by council at the last meeting. However, if we want to get our first payment of money, it's best we just approve this particular schedule of projects, sign the agreement, and subsequent to that, do an amendment to the project schedule. So that's my recommendation, is that council passes a resolution authorizing myself to sign the Resort Municipality Initiative Fund Transfer Agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Romanko. And these projects are it looks like they're into a short list of about 6: trail system, affordable housing, wayfinding, signage, beach cleaner, public art, and boat trailer.
Yes, those.
And that's compressed to what we looked at earlier in the
Yes,
day.
those are the existing projects that were identified approximately 3 years ago, and then based on our initiatives with the stakeholders, we identified probably another 8 projects, including the major ones being the addition of spending some of these funds on the marina, and also the construction of a new washroom facility at Gyro Beach Park. So those are kind of the major projects that are not on this list that we will do as a subsequent amendment.
Okay, and we have that flexibility.
Well, they told us they'll take an amendment.
Okay.
They have to get the paperwork done before March 31st, apparently.
Okay. This comes under the category of that end of the year funding.
That's right.
Okay. Council's wishes, Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll so move.
Okay, Councillor Cronmiller. And discussion, any discussion of Councillor Ryan?
Yeah, interesting. I know that Mr. Romanko has said that they now want us to spend all the money in the year that we receive it, and I can certainly understand that. But in Clause 4C, it seems to give you 2 years to spend it after the term of the agreement. So I don't know if they if the agreement is terminated at some point, but it seems a little inconsistent with what they're asking us to do.
Well, if they're saying now it's down to 1, I think we better go with, believe them and go
I
down
like
to 1.
this provision because
Clause C in which number?
4C. Item 4 brackets C in parentheses.
That's 2 years after the term of the agreement.
After it expires.
So if you receive the money and the agreement comes to an end, because this is only a 1-year agreement, then they say, well, you have to spend the money within 2 years.
You haven't spent it in that year, then you still have a little time to
that's right.
finish it off. Thank you. Yeah, okay. Good. Well,
Any further discussions? Hearing none. All in favor?
In
Opposed?
favor.
Thanks, Councillor Chadsey. That is carried. Good news, seeing as we already spent that in our budget earlier in the day. Item number 5, business 5. I have an out-of-town business report meeting from Councillor Rhodes. Attended the RDOS office on the CAO evaluation meeting in Penticton and submitted a chit here for 1 day, $100. Looking to approve that. Councillor Cronmiller Ryan, all in favor? Opposed?
In favor.
Carried, thank you. Checks in the mail. Item number business 6, and this was another addition to the agenda. Our CAO Romanko will present that, please.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. At the last meeting of council, they requested that staff prepare a report on the feasibility of the community hosting either the 2013 or the 2014 BC Senior Games. The Director of Recreation, Gerald Davies, did some research with the BC Games Society and has found out additional information which I'm sharing with you at this time. The town of Oliver and Osoyoos did host the games in 1995. At that time, the number of participants was in around 2,000. Since then, numerous people living in BC have aged, so apparently the number of participants is growing almost to 4,000. So the popularity of the games has increased, as well as I understand the sophistication of facilities that these seniors now require as well. That being said, there are a number of areas that needed to be explored to see whether or not we were able to provide suitable to be a suitable host for these games, including the first one being accommodations, and at which time it was determined that a minimum requirement would be 1,800 beds and 400 RV sites. We have approximately 1,600 beds, and RV sites would be at a premium, although we do have a number in the area. In terms of core facilities, we can host a number of the events. However, we would struggle in terms of hosting the swimming events, the athletics, and tennis. Swimming, because they require a swimming pool, probably of 25-meter length for official calculation of swim times, and then also athletics, the requirement for a track, and they have some specifications about a track that is beyond what we have here in the town. Also, the number of tennis courts that they require is in around 18, I understand. Now, that being said, that's not to say that if we did some work with some of our neighboring communities that we would not be able to provide these particular facilities. That being said, we were looking at potentially the games best to be hosted probably would be in 2014 in the last week in August. Certainly one of the things that was prevalent in Director Davies' report was that we could not do this alone. At minimum, we would require the support or assistance of our neighboring community of Oliver, and maybe, depending on the nature of facilities, we may even have to take our swimming to Penticton. That being said, if council wishes to move ahead on this particular initiative, that the administration recommends that they provide a direction to the administration to seek out the interest of the Oliver Council in doing a dual hosting of this particular event in 2014. So we would look for either a resolution to write a letter to the town of Oliver in this nature, or that we discontinue the activity.
Thank you, Mr. Romanko. What are council's wishes? Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that we solicit by mail or letter, whatever your term was, to look for a co-sponsorship with the town of Oliver.
Councillor
I'll
Chadsey.
second that.
You may second that. I was holding that position just for you. So we have the motion on the floor that's been seconded. Any further discussion on that? Councillor Cromwell.
I'm just throwing you over there.
Oh, okay. Councillor Rhodes.
Over on the invisible side.
Okay.
Just one really quick comment. 4 days, approximately $500,000 per day would be added into our public coffers here through people staying in our facilities, using our restaurants and all of the other amenities that we have in our town.
That would be well received. And when we get on to the swimming at our earlier discussion in the day, when we got to the swimming, I questioned why they couldn't swim in Canada's warmest freshwater lake, which would be Osoyoos Lake, and I think that would be a great innovation for the games people. So, Councillor Cromwell.
Now I'll have my turn. I just wanted to add that I think it's a great opportunity for the community, and I wasn't here when the last one was in Osoyoos and Oliver, but I think it's really important to have something like this on display in our community, an opportunity for a lot of people to come here and enjoy what we have. The one thing that I wanted to draw our attention to is that Penticton has declined this opportunity, and really people have to realize that we're excited about it, and we think there is a chance for us to do this. So we're going to march on and let the big city they can sit and watch.
Thanks, Councillor Cromwell. Councillor Chadsey, any comments?
I think the fellow councillors have said it. I think it's very exciting, and I think we can do it. And I would really invite Oliver to join us. I think it would be great for them also.
Thanks, Councillor Chadsey. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Favor.
That is carried. Thanks, Councillor Chadsey. Next item of business, just paying a few bills, transferring some funds into the general fund, $367,288.48, and into the Sun Bowl, $13,928.33, and receiving information on payroll accounts in the amount of $60,753.11. A motion, please. Councillor Ryan Cronmiller. Any discussion? Hearing none. These will be approved by consensus. Thank you very much. And that takes us into councillor reports. And the first, CAO report. Sorry, Mr. Romanko.
Getting on in the day.
Right. It is. I was having a little bit of a race ahead there.
Just a few items to mention from the administration in terms of some of the activities we've been up to. Certainly within the corporate services, you've seen some of the product and the work that has been done on the Good Neighbor and the community facilities bylaws that we've been dealt with. And also coming to your next council meeting will be the water conservation and stage restriction bylaw. So stay tuned for that. In terms of the community development area, work is proceeding with the people that sponsor the car racing over at the airport, so that we can work on the improvements to the site. Also working on hosting the resort municipality collaboration meeting in May, and that's moving along. Sat down with Destination Osoyoos and talked about the trademarking agreement and how it's going to be implemented in the community. And just of note that we've had a number of calls from across Canada from municipalities wanting to know about the process that we've gone through and relative to patenting our and registering our trademarks. So it's garnered a lot of interest across Canada. And also working with a group to develop Desert Beach Cruise Car Show and Shine in June of this year. That's with Watermark and the Chamber and Lordco and a number of different other businesses. In terms of the planning department, we've received 5 tenders for construction of the boat slips at Lions Park Marina, so we'll be going over those, and they'll be available for council on April 4th. And also, the director has been liaising with the regional district, looking at a new large rezoning application for the Willow Beach area, looking at 40 single-family homes and 152 mobile homes and 200 RV sites over there. In terms of the CAO, a couple of things have kept him busy, and that's one, dealing with the organizational review report and the relocation of the museum. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Romanko. Into councillors' reports. Councillor Chadsey, you're up first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I just want to thank you all for staying there and taking care of business. We had a number of bylaws earlier in the meeting, and I really just want to encourage everyone to read the bylaws and go online and come back with any comments when the public has the opportunity to speak. And to personally thank staff for those 2 bylaws and for all the work they did in trying to come up with something that will be workable for the summer months especially. And also to Mr. Zackel for all of his water, sewer, and landfill bylaws. I'm down to 1 bar, so I would like your permission if I could sign off after this. And I also just want to know how the Coyotes are doing, and that's my report.
Thanks, Councillor Chadsey. They're into the KIJHL final. They're playing Castlegar. We won the last 2 games at home. They are on the road to Castlegar, I believe, playing on Tuesday, Wednesday. They certainly have their hands full. When you get into the finals, a lot of the lesser teams have been washed by the wayside, and this is very serious, very exciting, very well played hockey from both sides, and the refereeing has been good. So it's been really exciting in the little town. Saturday night was 675 paid. So people are really turning out, and the support is fantastic.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Chadsey. Enjoy your holiday. We'll see you in town, I guess, for the next meeting.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Bye. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm going to continue on with my normal theme of some more information about our landfill. Hope I'm not boring staff and some of our council members, but it's time to start beating up another environmentally harmful product. And styrofoam is a huge component of our life, and it's really a nasty petroleum-based product. I wanted to bring forward a few facts here, 10 in fact, and I'd like to start off by saying that styrofoam is actually a trademark of the Dow Chemical Company. The material itself is called polystyrene. Got all kinds of chemical names in here, and I'm going to blow a few of them, I'm sure. Second thing I'd like to mention is commonly used in packaging materials to prevent shipping damage in food trays and even explosives. It is highly flammable, and a chemical called benzene, which is a proven human cancer-producing material, is used in its production. Fourth point is that nearly 30 cities in the U.S. have banned packaging and all products containing polystyrene because of the contact with food and the transfer of benzene into our food products from the packaging. And scientific evidence has proven that these toxins not only leach into our food, but remain in our food throughout the life cycle of that product that we're purchasing in our stores. So only 5% of polystyrene packaging is actually polystyrene. The rest of it is air. polystyrene will last forever in our landfills, like all plastic products. The recycling of polystyrene is an incredibly complex process that is often so cost prohibitive that it is not provided by most communities. Most experts consider this product to be non-recyclable. The eighth point I'd like to make is that it's estimated that 30% of landfill space worldwide is taken up by polystyrene products. Polystyrene is classed as a non-biodegradable product. And finally, the 10th point is animals that consume polystyrene. There's lots of them, not only our household pets, but animals that scavenge at our landfills and other areas, usually die a particularly nasty death from choking and blocked digestive tracts. So I think I'd like to cut it short tonight. That's probably enough ranting for this meeting. But I'd like to invite everybody to stay in tune for the next meeting, and I'll have a little bit more information on how we can make our life better without styrofoam.
Thanks, Councillor Rhodes. Councillor Ryan, please.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say another word about the Earth Hour that's coming up this Saturday, the 26th of March, and it's at 8:30 in the evening. We're being asked to turn off our lights, to turn off as many appliances in our homes as we possibly can that are non-essential. And the idea is to really show our commitment to reducing our carbon footprint and to saving energy. Our provider, Fortis, is asking us to pledge, and we do that by going to their website or by calling an 800 number, which is available. And what did I do with it? Oh yes, it's 1-866-436-7847. And in addition, there's an incentive. The incentive is, first of all, that if you do this, if you do pledge, and you are going to help yourself, and you're also going to help your community if we are successful, you will be entered into a weekend getaway at Manteo Resort in Kelowna if you pledge. And if we have more people than any other community in the area, we will get $5,000 of energy upgrades for our Osoyoos Children's Center. So three good reasons to do it: for the environment, for your own chance to win, and for our child care center. And they will ask you as well to what you're going to do in the dark. You can think of something very creative, how you're going to spend your hour of darkness, and a good time to reflect and good time to think about things and watch the stars and so on. In addition, I was able this week to go to the 75th anniversary at our Osoyoos Library of the library system. And our library system consists of 29 branches throughout the Okanagan-Samokameen and up into the area around Revelstoke and Golden. And it covers about 360,000 people, and there are about 155,000 library card holders. So, 75 years it's been in existence and been serving the people who live here. And the nice thing about it is that when you go in there to use the service, it's free. It's one of the few things in life that's still free. And where can you access hundreds of thousands of books? Where can you have free computer access to surf the internet or to send email? Where can you go and rent or borrow free movies, self-help videos and CDs, music DVDs? I mean, there's all kinds of things there that you can get for free. You can read magazines, you can read newspapers. So please use your library. The sad thing is that our library usage and circulation here in Osoyoos has been going down. So as a trustee that has been appointed by the council to serve on the board, I'm very interested in our in our usage increasing. So please do your part. The other thing I'd like to say is that when we talked about the glass collection, we indicated earlier that we are going to cease curbside pickup of glass, but you can still return it, you can still recycle it by going to the bottle depot. Now, we call it the bottle depot, but its technical name is the Return It Depot. And I just want to tell you about a couple of things that they take, which are not bottles. One of them is what are called gable top packages, and these are the things that your paper milk carton or other things, if you get bullion or whatever for making soups, you don't pay a deposit on them, but they can be recycled. So when you take any glass over there, when you take that, take along these Tetra Packs or milk cartons, because while they won't give you money for them, they'll at least take them and they will recycle them. And additionally, all these little curlicue compact fluorescent bulbs that we all don't know what to do with if they ever burn out, they also take them. So more than bottles. That's my report.
Thanks, Councillor Ryan. Councillor Cronmiller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I will try and keep it a little short today because I know I've been here a long time. But a couple of comments. One, this was an exciting day to be here. I think there were a lot of terrific things that went through this council today in the way of bylaws and tax notices and financial things. I think it was really good, and I really like to thank our staff for the work they've done on all of those things. There's a lot of work for them as it was for us to go through them today and to also work towards today with them. A couple of other things. I was at a meeting last week with the SILGA, which is Southern Interior Local Government Association, and thought I might mention a couple of highlights from it that might be pertinent to our community. The people that aren't aware, this year is the Merit's 100th anniversary, and they're celebrating their birthday on April the 1st with a celebration, and they'll have a week-long celebration in July that people might be interested in attending or taking in a day or two of their festivities. Our convention for SILGA this year is there in the beginning of May, and we'll have an opportunity to share in some of their celebration. Also at the meeting we had two members of the Chamber of Commerce attend, and they talked to us about transportation between Osoyoos and Salmon Arm Sicamous area, and how the Chamber of Commerce is working to try and get the Ministry of Transportation to develop some plans, possibly a 30-year plan, to deal with transportation issues in the corridor along the Okanagan Valley. Certainly SILGA is a bit broader area than just that, but this is a starting point, and I think it's great that we're having business put some pressure on government as well to see if we can get some things accomplished in that transportation area. So that was two of the things, and then also, as we've talked before, certainly our goose situation always gets mentioned as one of the highlights of our meetings. Maybe lowlights, I don't know. At any rate, they're still working on some of that, and we're trying to get some more information from other government sources. And we also reviewed probably about 27 resolutions that will be that were sent to us by communities from throughout SILGA, brought to us and reviewed by the executive. And then we'll be bringing them to the convention for review. And then they'll go on to the Union BC Municipalities Convention in September as part of our SILGA resolution. So they kind of take SILGA's identity rather than individual communities' identities. So we had a good week, a good day of work there as well. And also on Friday, Councillor Ryan and I attended the Osoyoos Waterfront Steering Committee meeting. And as everyone knows, here at the town, as a community, we put in an offer to purchase the home building supplies and look at what we're moving our museum So it made our waterfront steering committee a really exciting meeting, because now we can talk about things in the future, have some make some more definite plans as to where we might go, and we look forward to involving our community in those plans. Yeah, it's really exciting to see what can happen with our waterfronts. My report.
Thanks, Councillor Cronmiller. Just have a referendum standing in the way.
I'll leave that for you.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to keep it real short. There's certainly lots to do, and I think Council today stated the amount of work that was coming in here and the amount that's been done by staff and Mr. Emanko on that. And I really hope that people out there realize that the amount is being done, because I know I've sure been putting in a lot of hours and bringing these things forward. It's, it was the tax time, and we had the organizational review. The museum has taken a fair amount of really fun time, I think, so far. Just getting it all up, and I know that council is pretty excited about it, and we will be working towards that referendum. Although it's really up to the town folks how they want to go on that. They can receive that information, and the reason we went to referendum was everyone had their input into it, and they can vote and bring forward what they think should be happening with the town. It was a very substantial amount of money, so we certainly thought that they should be voting on it. This is World Water Week right now, so if anybody's interested in what's going on with water, and there's really some interesting things happening through the Okanagan Basin Water Board, you may go to obwb.ca, and there's just a whole plethora of things happening in the Okanagan Valley right now. In Kelowna, they're having a radio show every morning on World Water, 5 different speakers from cattlemen right through to processing people and dealing with that. So, and then on Wednesday is World Water Day, and I think that might be World Drinking Water Day. So, and the town of Vesuvius, we promote tap water. So everybody should be drinking their tap water, as Councillor Ryan is. And one other bit of news, and this was coming through the regional district in the Okanagan Film Commission. There's been some real serious activity on approximately 4 movies being shot in Vesuvius End area. A couple of them looking at the old Gunless site. Now, the one thing about the movie business, don't count your dollars till you see the white of their eyes. They're pretty flighty. They're here today and gone. But there's been some real serious looking going on with Jerry Logan and some of the scouts that are out there. And that would really be fun again if Vesuvius got chosen for. And there were a couple of westerns, obviously. So the last one was so much fun when the Gunless crew was in town. And it's a great shoulder season revenue. So I hope that comes to fruition. And that's probably enough. That's one thing about it, you can turn it off at any time. So I guess I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Councillor Cronmiller, Ryan, all in favor? We are adjourned. Good afternoon, folks. Enjoy spring.